Hello there and welcome Virtual Space Hero community to another Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Live. I really hope you're doing fine and let us know how is it going. Where are you connecting from? Please use the chat function so that we are a little bit aware where are you connecting from. And well, this already fits in perfectly to today's topic. It's about networking. And networking, as our guest will tell us, is not only about connecting, but it's about getting to know each other better. And for example, getting to know or knowing where you're connecting from is already one of the first steps. So in this case, let us know. Please use the chat function. Where are you connecting from to this week's Virtual Space Hero LinkedIn Live here? And with that, we're already diving deep into the topic. We do know, and all of us, particularly those of us who are connecting here on LinkedIn, it is a business networking platform. We do know that networking is a necessity in today's business world, in today's world. And my guest, Adam Connors, who I bring on the stage immediately, is saying that everybody knows about networking, but not everybody does it the right way. And with that, I'm super happy to pick up on this topic on how to purposefully network and prepare for virtual events with one of the experts in the world, Adam Connors. Here we go.
Hey, what's going on, Barbara? How are you?
Hey there, Adam. Thanks so much for taking your time and for connecting with me here. How are you doing?
I'm living the dream. I'm outstanding, but working on getting better. Thank you for asking.
Oh, fantastic. Adam, it is super interesting because you're the first expert on professional networking that ever crossed my path. So I'm really happy that you made time in your calendar and that you joined me in my virtual space, your LinkedIn Live here. So I really would love to know, how did you get into the topic, generally speaking, about networking? Why did you sort of make that your professional path?
It's a great question, and before answering, I'm just honored and humbled to be here. I think it's what you're doing is fantastic. I've had really just a really wonderful experience, not just getting to know you, but I really like this platform and the way that you've gone about this. So thank you. Now, to answer your question, what is more important than your relationships in your life? I just think about that. To answer your question specifically, a lot of things, what I'm doing today is an amalgamation of everything that I've done in life. And I'm not going to bore you with my entire story, but in a nutshell, school and a lot of things did not come easy to me. But I've been very fortunate in my life, having done a lot of really pretty cool things, whether it's start multiple businesses, be involved in multiple businesses, be involved in a lot of capital raises, being involved in jobs, if you will, that most people would have loved to have done. And I know that because I used to own an executive search firm, and I know how qualified a lot of these people are and how they still haven't been able to get to where they wanted to go, or to kind of have just some of these amazing experiences. And the opportunities that have been given to me were not a result of of my grades. Were not a result of the schools that I went to. Were not a result of a lot of things that everybody is taught to, and to focus on. And I'm not trying to discount those in any way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are if you can't get in front of a decision maker. So I've been, again, very fortunate in the work and the things that I've been able to do. And I can't say that anything that I've accomplished is mine or mine alone. It's all a result of some of these amazing people that I've been really fortunate to come across in my life, like yourself. And, that is, I realize that if someone with, my IQ, my lack of, I have a degree, but my real lack of further education, and I've been able to do some of these amazing things, that I need to share that with other people that are smarter, more driven, have all these other tools in their toolbox, if you will, that if they could learn the power of connectivity and the importance of relationships, not just from a business standpoint, how much further and how much better that they can do, and ultimately how much happier they can be. I hope that answers your question, and I'm sorry if I went on this long soliloquy.
No, but I think it's fantastic. And of course, your path is long. So there was a perfect quick jump into why you care about relationships and why you made this network wise. As we see here, networkwise.com. So join also the debate and the discussion on Adam's blog and have a look at the useful resources you can find there. But it's fantastic what you were saying. So it's all about people. It's about relationships. And it's interesting because for example, I didn't know that you had an executive search company. So of course, just thinking about how many jobs are filled through networks or by recommendations, of course, it makes the importance of being able to network purposefully clearer than ever.
You touched on a couple things. And you said purposely twice, so I know it's not a mistake. And I'm really happy to hear that, because it is. It's about intent and intention and being purposeful, because people can see through it. If it's not genuine and you're not sincere and you're not, your intent is not positive, people will definitely see right through that. So yeah, and the other thing that you mentioned, which is 100% true, is that the majority of the jobs, you don't go through the front door to get the jobs. It's really typically through the back or the side or the side door, and or what I like to call the hidden job market. And that's where most of the roles are where they're going to be found, especially the better ones. So, and how are you going to find those? You're going to find those through relationships. You're not going to find them on job boards. Job boards are, I think the latest statistic I read is about 2%. So if you're a match on paper, you start looking for those qualifications. So let's say you're an 8 or 9 out of 10 and you submit your resume, you only have a 2% chance of getting that job. So where do you think your time is going to be best spent? Is it going to be best spent, going through 100, filling out those applications 100 times to get 2%, interviews? Or do you think you might do better connecting, building relationships with even 50 people, or even less? You'll do better.
Yeah. That's a crazy number, 2%. So I would really love to know. And I see we are streaming here to 3 platforms. We have LinkedIn, we have YouTube and Facebook. And I see there are quite a few people out there joining our conversation. So let us know in the comment feature, how do you get your jobs? Do you still use traditional ways of applying for a job, and are they sort of successfully working for you, or do you search your jobs through networks? So let us know. Drop us a comment, so to better understand what is your strategy out there. Use the comment function. Thank you so much, Adam. That's, of course, thinking about the 2%, amazing numbers and amazing. We need to be aware of that. Yeah. Let me generally ask you, when we think about the network, we of course need to grow our network, and LinkedIn, our platform here, is of course one of the business platforms and business networking platforms. But how can we improve the quality of our networks? Because just growing and I remember I read an article of yours. It is like, what happens when you have 500 followers or 5,000 followers on LinkedIn? Nothing happens, because it's all about the quality, right? Yeah. So how do we improve the quality of our networks?
So a couple things, and I want to go back to something that you said, because we don't have a network. We are part of many networks, or what I like to consider spheres of influence. So if you think about it, a lot of times people, when you ask them about, who's in their networks, or you get some people that say, well, I've got, 1,000 people that I'm connected with on social media. And then you've got the other extreme where you've got people that say, oh, I don't have any networks. And the truth lies somewhere in between. And what I like to make sure that people understand is, again, to think about all the different spheres of influence that they are a part of. Now, what are those spheres? The spheres of influence, your social media connections, yes, that's a sphere. Where you've worked is a sphere. Your alumni, colleges, high schools, those are spheres. Hobbies that you have are spheres. Your community is a sphere. If you've got kids, that's a whole other sphere, them, their parents. So there are multiple spheres of influence that we have. And it's really important that you understand those, because when you start breaking them down a little more granularly, you can start going about them in a different direction. And that's a topic for a whole other conversation. But I wanted to make sure that I was very clear. So could you mind saying your question again? Is like, how do we develop them, or how do we
How
build
do
them?
we improve the quality of our networks? How do we develop them?
Yes. Okay, good. So you talked about it before about purpose, the importance of purpose and intent, which is huge. It's really a matter of, it's that mindset of how you go into your relationships is really important. Not to go in to kind of network for need, not to go in, wanting something or expecting something right away. You really need to think about things in the long term. And I know that might be hard for people to digest, especially if they're just looking for a job, but it's the long game that's going to pay off. It's the acorns and the seeds that you plant today that turn into the oak trees, tomorrow or the next day. You just got to trust the process. Networking works. It might not work exactly when you want. It might not work how you want. It might not, you just got to trust the process and play the long game. When I talk about that mindset, it's, there's what's the guy's Zig Ziglar said that it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that's going to control your altitude. So if you think about that, so it's that.
wait. To digest that again, it's your attitude that controls your aptitude. No, and your aptitude that controls your altitude.
It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that will determine your altitude.
I love that.
Yeah, I can't take credit. It's Zig Ziglar. He was I don't know, I guess he's considered a motivational speaker, but I think he was just like a great salesman. And he's got some really fantastic quotes, and that's just one of many. So it's that attitude, that mindset, and the mindset that I like to really impart to people is about, again, having that positive intent, and also you need to make it a habit. I talk, we all know about the importance of tiny habits, because people, you don't decide your future. Everybody thinks that they decide their future, but you don't. You decide your habits, and it's your habits that dictate your future. So you want to get into the habit of thinking about other people. You want to get into the habit of listening to what they are saying, not for the reasons of being able to respond, but to digest what they're saying. Like you are an excellent listener. It's something that I've picked up on, really quick. It's a great habit. I don't know if that's something that's natural to you or something that you've worked on. I myself was a horrible listener, and it's something that I've had to, take a lot of time working on. And it's again, I've tried to make it a habit to do that. So the idea when it comes to networking and things you improve on is focusing your energy on making a difference in somebody else's success, and it's just going to come back to you. I call this kind of like a karmatic boomerang. So and something that was told to me, I've got a podcast. It's called Conversations with Connors, and I interview all different types of successful people, and with the common thread of how they got to their success was through their relationships. And
yeah,
I had a gentleman on my show by the name of Brandon Steiner. And Brandon, his story is great. He grew up really poor, and he's now extremely wealthy. And I don't just mean money; I mean wealth in terms of he's got the money, but he's a very famous person. He's the guy who bought Yankee Stadium and then broke it down and sold it into all different parts. And he's got great relationships. Anyways, the reason I tell you this is I had asked him the same question that you had just asked me, and he said, and I'll never forget this. He says, "Adam, you do as much as you can, for as many people as you can, as often as you can, without expecting anything in return." And that just sits like, if there's one thing that I can think of when it comes to like the networking and things that we can be improving, if that is that mindset that you have going into contacts or into relationships, it's going to be very, getting back to the intent and purposeful, and people are going to see that, they're going to understand that, and they're going to want to gravitate to you. And I'll tell you, someone just paid me literally right before we went live, just paid me the highest compliment. I gave this guy a call, And he just says, I just want to thank you. And I said, for what? And he says, when I see your phone, when your name pops up on my phone, it puts a smile on my face. And I said, okay, well, that's nice. I said, why? And he says, because whenever my phone rings, I don't want to say who he is, but he's somewhat of a famous person. He says, every time my phone rings, it's always somebody that wants something. Every time. So I know that when my phone is ringing, it's just somebody with a need or a want. Because I know that if I'm getting a call from you, it's you're offering to give something, or if you want something, it's going to be to benefit somebody else. So that was, I'm not trying to brag. It just put a smile on my face, and it reminded me about why I do what I do.
It is a lovely compliment, and I hope that we can also put a few smiles on faces tonight during this LinkedIn live stream. I see here Brent is already mentioning to our previous question, it's all about networking. Thanks a lot for sharing, Brent. And I see Sherry is also sharing that she found jobs through both, like traditional job search, but also networks, and networks were faster, and to a new position you may be happy, and since you will have insider knowledge. Very interesting. And Cheryl is also sharing with us the inspirational quotes from Zig Ziglar. So thanks a lot for that. Fantastic, Sherry. Great. And
Sherry, can I chime in? So Sherry is fantastic. Actually, she's another person who has been on my show. I would highly encourage people to check her out. The name of the show is The Pied Piper of People, because that's the kind of energy that she brings, because she's all about helping and giving. And if you ever are at an event, it's amazing to see just the way that people just gravitate towards her, this magnetism. And it's because she's just, again, her intent is so positive and sincere. And she's the kind of person that supports you. And listen, she's right here, right now. I'm sure she has a very big job, and I'm sure she's got other things to be doing, and she's making a contribution, and she's giving. Brent, also, he's a really interesting guy, and I would encourage everybody to follow him as well. He's been doing these Clubhouse calls, I think weekly. I'm sorry, Brent, if I'm off, but another famed networker. So I'm sorry to cut you off over there, Barbara. You had a question?
That is totally fine, because that is exactly what you were talking about before I dragged in the comments. So connect with each other. That's also the idea, of course, in this LinkedIn live stream. So drop in your comment and connect with each other. Sherry, if you'd share your podcast, it would be fantastic. Also, Brent, share what you have to share, and we would be happy to connect afterwards, or those who are out there currently during the live stream now. So fantastic. Thanks a lot, Adam, for pointing that out. But now we're getting a little bit technical, I would say. So technical in the sense of, we have been talking about networking in the normal world, in in-present settings, for quite some time. But what does it take to network purposefully during a virtual event? What do you need to prepare for before the event, Adam? Maybe let's start with that. So what do you do to purposefully network before a virtual event?
Okay, you're always like one step ahead of me, because it's all about the preparation. Benjamin Franklin said that by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So just the sheer, just by preparing puts you steps ahead of everybody else, because 99, probably 0.999% of people, they do not prepare. So first and foremost, just by doing that, you're ahead of the game. So if you want to get more technical and you want some of the specific things that you can be doing, I'll give you a couple pointers. Ask the host for the guest list. If it's not public, if you haven't published it, reach out to the host, and also reach out to the host and say, hey, Barbara, I see that you're going to be speaking with Adam today. What can I do that can help with your event? As I'm sure you can appreciate, Barbara, you know what it takes to run these events, right? Like you've got to find the guest, you got to coordinate with the guest, you got to schedule the time, you got to help promote it, you've got to hope that while people are, there's so much work that goes into it that you can't possibly do all of it, or you can, but it takes a lot. By having somebody reach out and just offer. Again, it comes back to taking this proactive approach to your relationships. Number one, by me reaching out to you, by trying to offer to help, now you and I have a connection. You've also learned a lot about who I am as a person, and maybe I can help you, or maybe I just can't, but we've now connected to some degree, or I'm on your radar to some degree. I'm, even if it's just in the back of your head. So, that's one thing. Another thing is you can ask the guest, the host of the show, well, okay, Barbara, I see that, you're really good. Here's who I am. This is what I'm doing. Is there anyone in particular that you suggest I connect with, that that's going to be on? Who knows the guests or the people better than you? Nobody. So that's a great way to be able to kind of stand out. And again, anyone that's going to get introduced through you, you're the star of the show, Barbara. So, coming through your channel, I'm going to be able to leverage your social capital, something that you've already done to build these relationships. That introduction, that trust is transferable, and trust is the holy grail of relationships. So, you want me to keep going, or is
I think these are super valuable tips. Let me add here some technicalities, for example, to those of you out there who attend regularly LinkedIn events. So maybe, Adam, if that's fine with you, because in LinkedIn events, you have a new feature that I do not see a lot of people using. We do have, if you join a LinkedIn event, you have, for example, the general chat where you can post things, but like the general comment function. But then you also have usually an event chat. And I do see that people are still a little hesitant to start a conversation in such an open space, because virtually speaking, there could be 500 people in that event. So how do you overcome that in that sort of shyness to start a conversation? What would you suggest there?
So you're asking me, right?
Yes.
There are a couple things that you can be doing. So what do you see besides my picture? What do you see at the bottom of my picture?
The name with the asterisk, with the stars, you mean?
That's right. So that's just something so little as that. If you're looking at a list of people that are on one of these virtual events, who do you think is going to stand out? I'm going to stand out.
It's going to be you, yeah.
Yeah. So just, again, it's human nature. So just by doing something so little like that, I'm going to get the attention of somebody. So instead of me having to approach maybe somebody else, I'm getting a lot more eyeballs. So that's a tiny little trick.
So if you can, I love the idea. So if you can, and if the platform allows you to, make like something little in front of your first name or after your last name, like a star or a dot or something that you might stand out from the others. And it's fun, Adam, because I'm thinking about our LinkedIn profiles, and we saw a trend in the last years to use more emojis also in the profile name, right?
Yep. It's the same concept. And if you have access, so like on mine, I think I have a microphone, and I use that microphone because it's symbolic of, one of the things that I do, and that's host podcasts. So that might grab someone else's attention who's either interested in being on a show, listens to a show, so something like that really stands out. Another thing that you can do in the chat feature is ahead of time, have something written out. Hi, my name is Adam Connors. Maybe a quick blurb about what it is that I do. Make sure that you're open. Like, I love to connect with here's the value that I can add, and here's my LinkedIn profile. Boom, shoot that right into the chat. You don't have to approach anybody. All you can do is just throw that into the chat, and then people, while watching, we all have attention spans of gnats. So I'm sure we're not, like, even right now, as you guys are listening or watching this, I'm sure you're doing 10 other things at once. So now you could be clicking on my profile and see, who is this guy? Or even if you're just in the audience, you can do that.
And I think it's so fantastic because what you're saying reminds me a lot about what I'm doing when I prepare for a virtual event production, because I produce virtual events. And for example, I do have, of course, all the chat messages prepared beforehand. And for example, so that my chat messages as an organizer stand out from all the chat messages, I use asterisks, like the small stars, and I use emojis because nobody else uses emojis in a Zoom chat, for example. 1% of the users. And it's really a fantastic idea to also implement and use that as a user, as a participant.
Yeah, 100%. It's, it's the same way if you think about if this was in person. There are things that people do. You've got some people that wear a cool tie, or maybe some people will have on a special hat, things like that are, it's an excuse to talk. It gives you a talking point as opposed to just saying, hey, well, how is the weather? Or, hey, was it take you a long time to get here? All these like standard things that are just superfluous. Now you've given somebody something interesting to talk about. Wow, that's, I got to tell you, Barbara, that's a really unique thing that you put on your in the chat or on your name. Can you tell me about why you did that, or how did you do that, or what does it symbolize? What does it represent? Now the conversation is it's a little deeper, so you're starting off in a better spot, and there's a good energy around that conversation.
Yeah, and I think I like that a lot, to be able to connect it with what I'm doing in a different sphere, totally different sphere. And thanks a lot. I see here Sherry's commenting. She has so many meetings. I'm so using this tip. Sherry, do you have another tip that you want to share with us? What are you using in your meetings or for preparation or in others' meetings in order to stand out? It would be fantastic to know that. Thank you so much. So Adam, we're talking about preparation for virtual events in order to network. We've been talking about several things, the chats that are open beforehand, but also then how do you do, what do you do if you have, for example, a very big LinkedIn event? Do you go through all the names lists beyond talking to the host, but do you go through the names? Do you connect with the people beforehand? What do you do here?
All of the above. So again, it's all about the preparation. That's why that's so important. Yeah, I would, if you've gotten the names, I would look through, and the lens that I would be looking through as I'm perusing the profiles is, number one, who are people that are going to be at this event that I can benefit, and how? That's really important. Think about, what is it they're doing? Maybe there's information that you have in what you're doing. Maybe there's somebody that that you can introduce them to. And then also people that you can benefit from. It's okay to ask people sometimes. Again, especially, and people are going to be able to tell if your intent is good. Are you a giver or are you a taker? And it's okay. So number one, I would do number one, request or get their information. Number two, do a little bit of due diligence. Number three, you can also see if people that you share mutual connections. That's one of the beauties of LinkedIn, where you can kind of find that social proof or get that introduction ahead of time, or at least find out a little bit of information that might not necessarily be on their LinkedIn profile. From there, you can reach out to them ahead of time, just like you would do at a conference. A lot of times, anyone, if you can remember back in the day when we met in person, more often than not, what I would do, and I know Sherry's one of the masters at this, she would set up an event prior to the event. So you could kind of even do like hey, I'm going to do, instead of, you can't really do the LinkedIn lives, but you can at least do a one-on-one. Or you could, so this way you can get to know people ahead of time. And then I also like to ask people, hey, you're going to be at this event. Who's going to be a good contact for you? Because as you start, because in certain events you get moved into rooms. And when you start talking to people, when your focus is on helping the other person that you had met previously, how great is that? How nice is that? Because then you're going to get introduced in a different capacity. And that changes the whole dynamic of a conversation. And that's huge. I used to have a company where I did career coaching, and there was a service that we offered called the wingman. I know that's not necessarily, it's not politically correct right now, but you understand the concept. So you bring somebody, they would go there almost as your partner. And the idea, because, not everybody's an extrovert. So somebody would go, and the idea would be to connect with somebody that might be a good connection for their introvert, get to know them. then make the introduction. Again, the dynamic on how the conversation came to be is so much different. Instead of somebody that maybe wants to connect with somebody else and is looking for a sale or is looking for a job, now the introduction has come through a third party, and now it's just people that are having an introduction because somebody else felt that there was a mutual connection.
But if I think about the whole magnitude about what we're talking here about, because if I have a virtual event, I need to prepare for networking beforehand. I need to focus on networking during the event. Probably there's also some post networking, and we're going to talk about that immediately. But what would you say, like, probably it's a difficult question, but what would you say, how much networking then is my job? So think about myself, or I'm an entrepreneur, I'm running a company, I do virtual events production, I do ABCD. How much percent of my time should I dedicate to networking?
When you're saying at this event, like what, like how much of your time at the event should you be networking?
I think probably in general in my life. If I think about a normal work week.
Yeah, I think that so here, I'll tell you, so normal work week, not at the event itself, you're saying, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So I'll tell you a couple things that I just do regularly, that I think might answer your question. And I think that these are some actionable tips that everybody that's watching right now can do. And there's no excuse for not doing them. So what I do either at the end of every day or at the beginning of every day, I journal and I write what did I do? What did I accomplish? What did I experience? So, maybe I watched something on Netflix. Maybe I read an interesting article. Maybe someone sent me a funny meme, something, I just make a whole list of all these things. And then I go back and I start looking at these things that I experience, and I think about who in my networks could benefit from this. Who's gonna appreciate this funny meme? Who could benefit from learning about the statistics of a talent survey that was just done? Who would really enjoy this documentary that I just watched? And I start thinking about those, and then I send a note or a text or an email, whatever medium that I know is best for them, saying, hey, I read this, thought of you, hope you enjoy. A couple things happen with that. First and foremost, it just feels great to do. So there's like that gratitude feeling. Secondly, it's an excuse to connect with somebody. Again, proximity, just like with a business, proximity is power. And it's great to just stay front and center with your networks. And then how nice is it to receive that email or text? How nice is it to know that somebody was thinking about you? On top of that, how great is it if it benefits you, if it put that smile on your face, if you learn something new, if whatever it might be. So that's something that does not take much time, and it's getting back to the habit. This is something I do religiously every single day. I probably do it longer than most, but it only takes, even if you're just reaching out to 1 or 2 people per day, if you start thinking about doing that over time, that aggregates. And think about all the connections that helps. And I'm glad that really kind of fosters and nurtures, because a lot of times people, again, they network for need. They just reach out when they want something. How about being proactive with your connections? And yeah.
And offering something. And that, I think I like that, because if you only reach out, even if it's only 1 person a day, depending on whatever you're forwarding or whatever you're drawing their attention to, but it can take me as little as 5 minutes. For example, forwarding something, adding a purposeful or a good comment, a sentence that makes sense to that person. Because I know somebody, and she's really fun, because I think she really believes that's a good thing to do. She forwards, it's a contact of mine, and she forwards like crazy memes and stuff on WhatsApp. And I see it has been, I think WhatsApp notifies you like multiple forwards or something. So I assume it's a forward to 1,000 people, and I'm one of them, why so ever. And I'm always like, what does this have to do with me? So it's not my context, it's not my type of humor. And I just don't want to get that. And it's always like, totally overloading, I believe. And what you are suggesting, to have one contact that whatever you're forwarding or whatever you were writing to that person for, or can take as little as 5 minutes every day, and it's much more intentional than forwarding it to 1,000 people.
Correct. 100%. I mean, how does it feel when you get there? People reach out to you, when that happens.
I'm totally annoyed. I'm totally annoyed of that person with the WhatsApp habit, with the multiple sender WhatsApp habit. I hate it. I don't feel comfortable at all with that.
It's not personalized.
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay, so we talked a little bit about preparation during the event, being proactive, approaching, joining the conversation, whatever is going on in the event, I assume. If you think about the post networking, because I really would love to have your suggestions for that, because clearly even at the event, if I'm enjoying the conversation, if I'm connecting with people, and there are many platforms who are as easy, like connect with, and you're just clicking on my or Adam's LinkedIn profile, you're already connected. But what happens afterwards? What are your useful tips for us there?
So, I mean, first and foremost, the fortune is in the follow-up. It's everything. I mean, I still to this day, it blows my mind when people do not follow up. It's pathetic. Very few people are even going to follow up on what we're talking about. I can't understand why go to an event? Why connect with people if you're not going to follow up with them? I still can't wrap my head around it. I mean, in golf, as in life, it's the follow through that makes the difference. I mean, there's just a sea of mediocrity out there. And just by simply following up, you are going to stand out like significantly. I've only found one study, and I challenge the results of it because I think they're being very generous. But what would you guess is the percent of people that actually follow up after they've met somebody and had a meaningful conversation at a networking or social event? What would you guess?
I don't know, 10, 20%?
Well, yeah, you're generous too. It's the best. I've only come across the one study, and they're saying that 30% follow through, and I mean, even that number is pathetic to me. Like I think it's probably closer to like 2 to 5%, but there one gentleman named Mark Sackett, he did a study, and again, it's so that's where the value is. Like in sales, the average sale takes 7 calls or 7 follow-up meetings. So if you just meet somebody at an event, you're not going to do business. I mean, I'd be shocked if you do business. Again, when we're talking about the average being 7, those are lots of cold calls and things that come into the nature. So it might be different as opposed to, getting an introduction and meeting somebody, but still you have to follow up. Again, that's where the fortune is. It's all in the follow-up. That's where it takes time to really build true relationships. And the whole thing, it's all about trust. So how do people trust you? Because if they know you, they'll listen to you. If they like you, they'll spend some time with you. But if they trust you, that's the holy grail. That's like when they trust you, that's when they'll buy from you. That's when they'll invest in you. That's when they're going to put their name behind you and refer you business or refer you or help your kids or whoever that might be. But that takes time. And that's why the relationship formula is time plus value that you're able to provide equals trust. And again, that trust comes from, it can't happen if you don't follow up and follow through.
Yeah. I totally see that. And I think what we are underestimating is that because I think the follow-up doesn't happen because we don't have the time. But so if we think about how much time we're investing to go to events, to potentially find partners or collaboration partners or clients or whoever, or just peers, but then if we don't properly follow up, of course, it's just crazy that we don't use that properly enough. And myself, I totally know that. Just thinking back about the big conferences that I went to, these in academia, Academy of International Business, they are like 1,000 people. So of course you meet like at least 30, 40 new people there per day probably. And just to organize yourself and then to think about who do you really need and want to follow up with, it just takes so much time that many people get blocked and stop there. But I also believe that what you're saying is like the most important part of it, to be consistent in the follow up with yourself as well, to really make the most out of the contact.
Can I expand on that a little bit too?
Go ahead.
So that, again, like you said, you put the time to go there. There are probably some great people. It can be overwhelming. So there are things that you can do. And I recommend, when you go to these events in person, write on the back of a business card or take the notes. It's easier in this virtual because you can just type or take notes. And I highly recommend doing that, because you might talk to multiple people and you can't possibly remember everything about everybody. But there are times when I am talking to people, I will literally take out a pen and I will write. And I will tell them, hey, what you're saying is important and I don't want to forget it. Whether it's a birthday, whether it's just something they said that's related to business, whatever it might be, it's so important that I'm okay with, if they look at me funny, I'll explain. If it's important to you, it's important to me. So I will write that down. And that's, again, important also, because when you're going to follow up with somebody at a later date, they're not going to remember you all the time. They can't do that. I've got Adam Connors. How boring of a name is that? There's a million Adam Connors. So I don't have a unique name. So there's other things that I'm going to need to do to be able to stand out. And whether it's reminding that person of what we talked about to help generate the conversation, or even just for myself, knowing things that are important to them, knowing that their name, they had the asterisks ahead of their name on the LinkedIn event, whatever it might be, to help yourself stand out. Another thing when you're following up on LinkedIn, don't just click invite, personalize the invite for a variety of reasons. The first reason is you want to enhance your ability to get accepted. A lot of times, I don't know about you, but every time I see invites and they're just the invite, I just delete. I don't even look them up, because if they were too lazy to personalize it, I just hit delete. So, even if it's a sales thing, I'll at least take the time to read what they're trying to sell me. So number one, personalize it. Number two, try to be specific about what you talked about, because for a couple reasons. Number one, again, the reminder, but also what happens is we might have met Barbara at a conference, and it could have been 3 years ago. And we had an awesome conversation. We really connected. You were funny. You liked me. There's potential for business. But for, life happens. You had a baby. Other things happen to me. Life goes on. 3 years later, you might come across my profile and be like, oh, man, or might want to reach out to me. Oh, this guy looks great to connect with. I see his profile. Man, I could really benefit from knowing him. But you can't remember anything about me. So you might hesitate to reach out to me. However, if in LinkedIn you send a personalized note, Adam, great meeting you at the conference. Here are the things that we talked about. It's almost like using your own CRM. This way, you remember what we talked about. And then when I look you up, because I'm probably going to forget who you are. No offense. I'm just saying in general. Now I'm reminded. And I'm like, oh, yeah, Barbara, she was awesome. And it all comes back to me. So little things like that are tips or tricks for people that don't have a CRM, because not everybody has the CRM. And that will significantly enhance the ability to reconnect and pick up the conversation right where you left off.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so valuable and so important, because really you forget so easily where and how you met people, and it helps you really to sort of structure your network as well. Absolutely fantastic, Adam. There are so many valuable tips, and I'm super thankful for you also making your time to join this LinkedIn Live. And I just want to point out one story, that the first time we talked to each other before you accepted the invitation to this show, you in this call, you asked me, Barbara, how I can be helpful for you. What are you doing? What else are you doing? Who can I connect you with? And I still remember that, because it was the first time that somebody asked me that in this way. And I found it so valuable, so nice. And so something that I will never forget, and I'm really thankful because I know you're a super busy man. You have a tremendous blog on your webpage. So all of you out there, go to networkwise.com and check out the blog. I love the articles. There are so many small tips and tricks on how to network with more intent or more purposefully, even if I'm just starting my career. So all of you out there, get to the blog and read it, and particularly as well, connect with Adam. He's tagged here, and connect with each other, right, Adam? That's also what we want to enhance.
Yes, that's exactly it. You're too kind. I'm very humbled. I'm appreciative to be here. I think, like I said, I think you run a world-class operation, just a great experience. I like just everything about this and what it is that you're doing. So, you hang enough, great people know great people. And if you're putting out that positive intent, it's just only going to come back to you in spades. So I'm humbled and I'm appreciative to be here. And if there's anything that I can do for you or anyone that's in your networks that are watching this, that are reading, I would encourage you to reach out and not be shy.
Thank you so much, Adam. It was a tremendous pleasure having you here with us. And with that, I'm leaving you. And I have a virtual cocktail prepared backstage. So I see you in a minute there.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Virtual Space Hero community, for being with us, for joining our live discussion. I hope that you connect with each other. Stay tuned about our upcoming LinkedIn Lives. So you find them on our webpage, virtualspacehero.com. And you also, if you missed some of our episodes, don't worry, you are covered, or we have you covered, because we have a YouTube channel where you can find all the recordings of our live show. And with that, I'm leaving you in a beautiful morning, afternoon, or a good night. And I asked you to become a virtual space hero. So have a lovely evening and see you very soon. Bye.